Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Anderson, and I'm going to talk to you about sugar, diabetes, neuropathy, and then about the potential that you may be born with tunnels that are too tight, nerve tunnels that is, like carpal tunnel. And then at the very end, I'm going to share a story of a patient that's doing quite well with his neuropathy. But first off, let's talk about diabetes and sugar and how sugar affects your nervous system. Now, I'm a podiatrist, but I've really kind of morphed into peripheral nerve. I do a lot of work on patients that suffer from restless legs and neuropathy. And one of the things I do is I do decompression surgeries, which means I open up tunnels that have become too tight to reverse both neuropathy and restless legs. And now I've been doing this for neuropathy for well over 15 years and for the past 7 or 8 years for restless legs. But both those problems, neuropathy and restless legs, are associated with and more commonly may occur if you do have diabetes. So what does sugar in your body do to your nerves? Well, mainly two things. Number one, it's going to make your nerves larger. How can that be? Well, there's a sugar molecule called sorbitol that tends to be in the diabetic, and when you have that molecule, it will get in the nerve and it will make the nerve want to attract water to the nerve. So the nerve becomes larger, it becomes plumper. In fact, 40 to 50% enlarged at times. So now just imagine if you try to put that nerve, stuff that nerve through a nerve tunnel that's maybe this big. Let's talk about the carpal tunnel. A lot of you have heard of carpal tunnel syndrome. Well, imagine now this tunnel is composed of soft tissue structures and it's got a certain dimension. You're kind of created with a certain size tunnel. Now, if you have a nerve going through there and you're not a diabetic, but now you become a diabetic and it's going to increase by 40% in size, what's going to happen? It's very simple to visualize. It's going to get compressed, isn't it? So you've now got a fatter nerve trying to make it through a tunnel whose size has not changed. So that's one thing, the nerve becomes enlarged. And that is also why if you are diabetic, you're 7 times more likely to get carpal tunnel syndrome because of that phenomenon. But there's a second thing that happens. The second thing is that, and this is called the Maillard effect. I don't want to talk about it in a lot of detail, but just understand, again, these soft tissue structures called nerve tunnels, like carpal tunnel, they're soft tissue, and the soft tissue that comprises these tunnels becomes much less flexible. It's not very elastic. So it's much more rigid, and the nerve doesn't like that because it's like it's going now through a hard tube and something instead of something that might have a little bit of flex or give to it. So those two things, nerve becomes larger and the tunnel becomes more rigid. And that then can create compression, which then can lead to compression of tunnels. Now there's 5 of these tunnels from the knee down that I evaluate. I do other things in surgery, but it's important that you that are listening really understand that I'm looking at you from the viewpoint of, could you have tight tunnels? And could compression of those tunnels play a role in your neuropathy and in your restless legs? So let me kind of continue this discussion. So we've established how the nerves are affected. So when you have these symptoms of burning and tingling and numbness, and in the case of restless legs, maybe it's jerking and creepy crawly sensations and such, and anxiousness in your legs. But my point is that can be caused from compression. Now, you would think that there's a possibility that all of this is caused by sugar. It's all about the sugar, and a lot of it is, it really is. But there's a study that recently, well, it hasn't been published yet, but hopefully it's going to be in the next couple of years. But I was recently reminded of this study by a patient that came in, and he had surgery about a year ago, or a little over a year ago, but he had surgery for his diabetic neuropathy and got in a car accident, and because of that he got kind of delayed to come back, and so we had to finish up one other nerve tunnel. We had to open it up, and we did a decompression surgery on him recently. But the point I want to make is, he said to me, you know, Dr. Anderson, I haven't seen you in like a year, and my symptoms are even getting better from my neuropathy because of the surgery you did. Now here's what I want you to think about. There's another doctor, a colleague of mine, that is doing a study. It's kind of ongoing. They keep collecting the data. It hasn't been published, and I can't really tell you more about it than that, but I can tell you one thing. This study is going to be phenomenal. It's going to really move things even further forward. I've done some research, but this study is very, very awesome. And the reason it's so awesome is because he took all these patients that were diabetic. They had surgery to open up the nerve tunnels, and the naysayers, the doubters, would tell you, well, maybe they got better the first year, but it's going to come back. You know, their diabetic neuropathy is going to come back because they still are in the diabetic state. Well, guess what? It's not coming back. In fact, as years go by, and don't hold me this, but I think it's probably year number 5 or 6 now, if you looked at the improvement curve, it continues to get better and better and better every year. So what does that tell you? What does that tell me? It tells me that this factor of compression is a really big, big thing, because probably most of those people are still diabetic, but by opening up their tunnels, that pressure has been gone, and they're neuropathy free. So I'm just going to conclude with one other idea. And if you like this week, please I ask you to like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please make any comments at the end. But I want to leave you with this one last thing, and that is, could it be that a lot of us are just born with nerve tunnels that are too tight? I told you earlier that I can help people oftentimes with restless legs. Well, half the people that have restless legs are thought to have somebody else in their family with restless legs. Why is it that people that get carpal tunnel, some people do manual labor their entire life and they'll never get carpal tunnel, but others do a little bit of typing and they get it right away? You see, medicine's really never asked that question. So I'm just challenging conventional wisdom, challenging how people think about nerve tunnels, because I really do believe there's a place in medicine for us to rethink this and think about the possibility that some of us are just born with tighter tunnels. And that doesn't mean if you're diabetic you should go out and have a sugar binge and do all the bad things. But I will say I've had patients, and maybe you're one of them, that doesn't control their diabetes very well, and they really don't have much in the way of neuropathy. So again, it's kind of a head scratcher, isn't it? But when 50 to 70% of those with diabetes will get neuropathy. So just something for you to think about. And the study backs it up. And my patient that came back a year after he had surgery for his tight tunnels, he continues to get better. So something I wanted to relate to you: continue to control your diabetes well, listen to your doctors, and I hope you like this information that I shared with you. If you have any comments, please comment. We'd love to answer your questions, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.